Welcome to The One Thing, a video game review series that does something a bit different. Rather than try to touch on all of the features that make a game great, I attempt to distill a game down to a single element that I believe is integral to the experience of the game. This may not be the only thing that makes a game great, but if someone asked me to tell them why Limbo works, I'd start with the one thing. So what is the one thing with Limbo? I'd say it's the Grayscale color palette. At its heart, Limbo is a simple, relatively short puzzle platformer, and all of the elements that make a great puzzle platformer are here. Puzzles and platforming, of course, but also excellent control, a fair difficulty curve, perfect level design, and a protagonist that the player can connect with in some way. In this case, it's a human child, and I'm assuming most of you watching this were at one point a human child. An obvious exception being you, Tim. I really hope there's a couple friends watching right now, one of whom is named Tim, and the other who really doesn't like Tim and was hoping for a reason to end that friendship. Well, you're welcome, other person. You have your reason. Tim is not human. Going into Limbo, all we as players know is that we take on the role of a child who is rescuing his sister. Other than that, the story of Limbo is vague, and has therefore generated a ton of player theories ranging from the main character falling from a treehouse, to being killed in a car accident. Every theory, by the way, involves death. The developer encourages the non-specific intent of the story by refusing to answer any questions about it. Now, before I dive into the game's lack of color, I'd like to talk a little bit about the title, Limbo. Not only does the title, being a single word, remove any additional contextual help for determining an absolute theme. I mean, it's not called A Child's Limbo, or Limbo Run, or even just The Limbo. The term itself introduces the player to the idea of being in limbo. Casually speaking, being in limbo indicates a state of directionlessness, or more appropriately in the case of the game, an inability to either progress or regress. Or perhaps, more accurately, the inability to know if you are progressing or regressing. You're stagnant. From a religious context, and I'll speak specifically to Catholicism here, limbo refers to an afterlife state meant for unbaptized souls. The souls aren't allowed into heaven, but also aren't damned to hell. I think the game honors both the religious and the casual meaning of the term. Are you dead and trying to escape limbo? Well, maybe. Is the protagonist just as unsure about his progression as you, the player? Maybe. And as a side note, the child protagonist really is the only protagonist that would have worked with Limbo, so I'm glad they used it. The implied innocence of a child further conceals any concept of right and wrong, of black and white. Good work, developers. So where does the grayscale color palette come into play? Well, it's obvious, right? I mean, gray conveys a sense of emotional fluidity. Happy to sad, angry to joyful. If white represents hope and black represents defeat, then the grays in between represent various states of indirection and confusion. And that's what you are when playing Limbo. You're confused and left without direction. The way color and emotion work together is an inexact science. Earlier, I stated that it was obvious that gray conveys a sense of emotional fluidity, but that hasn't always been the case. Historically, grayscale was used in things like photography and television simply because it was the only thing available, and later because it was cheaper to produce than color. Today, grayscale is an artistic decision, and like with any artistic decision, or rather what should be the impetus to any artistic decision, the artist chooses a specific presentation based on intended reaction. That reaction can be a marketing one, it can be one driven by the need to highlight certain details. For example, black and white photography tends to reveal greater detail than color, but it can also be an emotional one. Modern game players, and media consumers in general, see grayscale as potentially a way to give gravitas to something, make it appear historical, for example. But I think we've also been trained to see it as a way to convey mystery or uncertainty. And perhaps you're familiar with the trope about the self-indulgent art school film student using black and white to force a sense of intrigue and importance. I mean, that's kind of what Limbo does, but not in a self-indulgent way. I mean, really, could you imagine Limbo with color? Well, you don't really have to. Dorkly made a great video about this. There's a link in the description below. It's pretty funny, actually. So tell me what you think about Limbo and its use of color, or should I say its lack of color. Is it how intentional was that design element? Do you think it was, as I say, meant to convey a sense of mystery regarding progression or regression, or do you think maybe it was possibly to hide developmental shortcomings. I don't know, maybe they use that color palette so they didn't have to spend a lot of time on color. I personally don't think that's the case, but maybe it is, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and please give this video a quick thumbs up if you like. I mean, if you've lasted this far into the video, obviously you enjoyed it to some extent. Why not thank me with a quick little thumbs up? It really goes a long way. When I see the notifications, comment notifications, and thumbs up notifications on my phone, I truly get giddy. People around me at work suspect that I got I don't know, they don't know what to think, to be honest with you, because I do get a little happy whenever that happens. So I thank you for all of those who do that. And if you'd like to continue making me happy, why not go ahead and subscribe? That'd be fun for me and fun for you. It's a mutually beneficial thing there. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and look forward to another video.